You want it to be one way.
What?
You want it to be one way.
Man, I don't
You
know
want it
what
to
you...
be one
Man,
way.
stop! Stop saying that.
But it's the other way.
808 Mafia.
What's good, man? Welcome to another episode of One Way Podcast with your host, Lorenza. I just so happen to be the host. Welcome. Recently there's been several bombings in the state of Texas around the Austin area, and the young man who was responsible for these bombings is no longer with us. He was cornered by the police, and he blew himself up in his own SUV. Yep, he blew himself up in his own SUV. While the police were pursuing him. And still the chief of police talked about this young man with such glowing terms. He said he watched a 25-minute video that the guy made, basically confessing his crimes. And because he didn't talk about how he hated black people, or because he didn't say specifically that this was terrorism, then you can't tie that to him. Which I can understand that. Because usually, if it has to do with terrorism in America, they said Allah Akbar. Or he was a Muslim. Or he was radicalized online. Or he's an immigrant. We talk about immigration. Because it doesn't fit the narrative of what terrorism looks like in America, or what they want terrorism to be so bad, it won't be called terrorism. But that's not the issue. Or for me, rather, it's not my major issue. I think the issue I have, something that I'm learning to realize, is that if they don't call it terrorism, cool. If they do call it terrorism, now what? I mean, what's the difference? What's next after that? Think about it for a second. Let's say we call Dylan Roof what Dylan Roof did on TV, the CNN guys, the Fox News guys, the MSNBC guys, the Alex Joneses, the Roland Martins. Well, he will anyway. But let's say all those people call it terrorism. What are we going to do about the terrorism? Are we going to add that to the fight against terrorism? Because it's going to exist. I admit that I'm a pretty weird person. I have some pretty weird interests. For some reason or another, I'm stuck between the wars of the Civil War and World War II. I study those when I don't have to. Always been like that. Think I'll always be like that. Nazis and stuff like that have always drawn my interest. Other things, famous killers, crime shows. If you think about it, there's a show. It's on Netflix. I think I've talked about it before. It's on Netflix. It's called Unabomber. I do believe it came on a regular network TV station first, A&E maybe. But it's called Unabomber. And it's actually told from the viewpoint, the lens, to where you, if you wanted to, you can empathize with the actual Unabomber. You can understand how he came to be the person that he came to be. You can realize in his heart that this man himself, he thought of himself as noble, a noble human being. A lot of these people are like that. And when you watch shows like that, which I'm not saying that this young man watched that show, but I would be hard pressed to believe that he's never seen or heard of the Unabomber, because a lot of the things he was doing was, it's very similar. And of course, they're not really talking about this yet because this was a young man, as young as he was, killing these people, and it wasn't really going against businesses. He was just basically killing black people. You're not going to get that in-depth conversation yet. We may not talk about this guy as he relates to what the Unabomber is and his Unabomber influences until 9 or 10 years from now, maybe even maybe a little earlier than that, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 years from now. They'll study it and things like that. But you're not gonna hear everyday people. You're not gonna hear. You're not gonna turn on CNN or Fox News or something like that and see this guy being compared to the Unabomber. But he should be. He'll go down in infamy or live in infamy with all the rest of the people that commit crimes like this. It's very weird, man. It's mass killings, serial killings. It's all very strange and weird to me, and it's just something that collectively, man, we'll really never understand. There's a show on Showtime. It's called Active Shooter. It's a series that has just finished up recently, if I'm not mistaken. But it's about 6 or 7, good episodes detailing specific shootings. And we've had so many shootings in the United States of America that shit, you forget some of them because the death toll isn't over 15, quite literally. But that show really shows you how people live with these things, how the first responders live with seeing such, horrible crime scenes, how the people who actually survived those moments actually live their lives today, and how they live outside of fear. I don't know, because you think about the Orlando Pulse nightclub shooting. You were in a public place having a great time, and this guy comes in there and opens fire. You cannot feel safe regularly in this life anymore. The only thing I would liken it to is like being raped. You will have a hard time trusting little things again. You would have a hard time if a woman that has been raped will have a hard time trusting a stranger who is a man holding a door for her. You damn right you're gonna be looking around if you were in a club and people started shooting. And some of the stories that you hear in there, like there's one that stands out. This young lady was in a bathroom, locked in there with a whole bunch of other people, and the cell phone just kept ringing. It was obviously someone that had passed away. It was their phone, but the shooter was actually getting angry and angrier because he wanted the person to give up the phone. Well, the phone all of a sudden stopped ringing, and when that happened, someone had the wherewithal to slide their phone underneath the bathroom, the stall, to make it look like someone was actually giving up the phone, and the phone never rang. Like, how do you live through something like that and be able to carry on normally throughout the rest of the days of your life is amazing to me. And those are the kind of questions that will also be asked, and those are the kind of things, or topics that will be discussed, later on in our lives, if we talk about this one Wyatt Rollins of Texas, the man who decides to send strangers bombs through the mail. Man, definitely wish there was another way, but it seems to be only one way. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for subscribing, whether you subscribe via iTunes or Google Play. Peace.